members of the legal fraternity here, and their talk is going to be, Vernon will be talking about the state of the law on same-sex marriages and its implications in Singapore. I suspect it's going to be rather pessimistic. But then we have Sunita Parar, who's going to lift your spirits by telling you there are plenty of ways of getting around the law.
Lifting your spirits.
Lifting your spirits, yeah. But first, of course, you have to get attached, otherwise it's all meaningless, right? And that's the hard part, isn't it? Or maybe not. Why are you all guys so successful?
Welcome to this talk. I'm a practicing lawyer, and this is my contribution to this year's information. Now, in light of time constraints, can you all hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? Okay, maybe I'll just project my voice or I'll walk closer to you guys. Now, I'm basically going to go through a recent New York Court of Appeals decision on same-sex marriages, because what had happened was that 44 couples sued New York state governments, departments to get a decision that the domestic relations law, which is a law governing marriage licenses in New York, is unconstitutional and violates the New York State Constitution on two clauses, which is the due process clause and the equal protection clause. Alright, so I will just cover that case. Well, basically, at the end of the day, the New York Court of Appeals decided that it is not unconstitutional for same-sex marriages not to be recognized in New York. That's the actual case. Now, contrast this with 2003. In Massachusetts, there was a case which said that same-sex marriages should be recognized, and insofar as the domestic relations law in Massachusetts does not recognize, then the definition of marriage will be reinterpreted to mean a civil union between two persons regardless of their sex. Then, after that, then I will just briefly cover the Singapore position, and then I will probably throw open for question and answer, or let Sonia come on for her talk. So this is the purpose of the discussion. It's basically to summarize and discuss the latest developments on same-sex marriages in light of the recent New York Court of Appeals decision in Hernandez and Robles, and to discuss the relevance of such law in Singapore. Hernandez and Robles is one of the couples, one of those 44 that sued the New York State Department. Now, I just want to have a poll as to how relevant this talk is in your lives. Now, there are about 30 people here. Can I just check how many of you are gay and lesbian? Are you prepared to disclose? If those who are prepared to disclose, you can just put up your hands. Okay. About 20. How many of you are homosexual? And are prepared to disclose? Okay, not prepared. Maybe gay and lesbian here. Alright, now, how many of you want to be given the right to marry a same-sex partner? Okay. How many given that right would actually do so? Get it speculative depending on whether you have a partner or not. How many are currently attached? Okay, for you, how many of you would actually do so if there's a right in Singapore? So it is pretty relevant. I think there is a constituency, and I guess that's why you're here. So this is the background facts. 44 same-sex couples, 4 lawsuits consolidated into one. The plaintiffs sought a declaratory judgment that restriction to marriage to opposite-sex couples is invalid under the New York State Constitution. There were 3 license issuing authorities, which is NYC, Alabama, and Ithaca. These are cities in New York. State Department of Health, which is actually a department that instructs local authorities for the issuing of marriage licenses in the state itself. Can you guys hear me now? Is it better? Okay. Now, these 4 cases went through the first instance, and then the appellate division, and then they went through finally to the New York Court of Appeal, which is the final court in New York State. In the first instance, of the 4 cases, 3 cases were in the government's favor. There was 1 case in the plaintiff's favor, but the grounds of decision are not known, or I've not had access to it. Then in the appellate division, the state won on all 4 cases. In the New York Court of Appeal, out of 7 judges, 4 affirmed the decision below, 2 dissented, and 1 did not give any decision on this point. Okay, these are the 2 clauses that I'm talking about, the New York State Constitution. The 2 clauses are Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause. Now, the Due Process Clause is mainly to do with rights which are regarded as fundamental rights, and it states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The other section in Section 11, Article 1, which is the Equal Protection Clause, no person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state or any subdivision thereof. So what the plaintiffs are saying is that certain provisions in the domestic relations law contravene these 2 sections and ought to be struck out or reinterpreted. Now, which are the laws that they are contesting? These are the main sections, domestic relations law. So, examples of the sections are, like Section 12, parties must solemnly declare that they take each other as husband and wife. Section 15A requires town and city clerks to obtain information from the groom and bride. Section 5 prohibits certain marriages as incestuous. These are the consanguinity provisions, brother and sister, uncle and aunt, niece and nephew. And Section 50 says that the property of a married woman shall not be subject to the husband's control. Now, the plaintiffs actually earlier argued that this law does not prohibit same-sex marriages. They feel because it's quite clear, the judges were of the view that it's quite clear that it only allows same-sex marriage. So the question is whether this law allowing only opposite-sex marriages is unconstitutional. So they went on that ground. Okay, now I'm going to go into some technical aspects of the case. So if you do not understand, ask me to repeat or slow down. Now, what they are doing is asking for a judicial review of these laws. And under the New York law, there are 3 levels of scrutiny to determine how in accord a law is with the Constitution. So there are strict scrutiny with the highest level, then heightened scrutiny, followed by rational basis scrutiny. Now, I'll just go briefly through each level. The strict scrutiny is the highest level of scrutiny. So that means the court will really look at that. And if there's any doubt that it is constitutional, then they will strike it out. These are legislation which affects fundamental rights. According to case law in New York, some of the things that they look at are race, alienage, national origins. Where there is classification and discrimination according to these categories, the law will be upheld only if it is narrowly tailored to serve compelling state interest. Anti-miscegenation law is a law that only allowed whites to marry other whites. In 1967, it was struck down in New York, in a New York case called Loving, Virginia. The court was of the view that that law required strict scrutiny, and it didn't pass strict scrutiny and was struck down. This is the next level of scrutiny, which is heightened scrutiny. This is where legislation discriminates one class in favor of another in other categories, not in heightened scrutiny areas. The courts have identified areas like gender, legitimacy, etc. And the test is that the law will be upheld only if it is substantially related to serve compelling state interest. So as long as it's substantially related, the law will pass. This is the next highest level of scrutiny. An example of a law that has to pass heightened scrutiny is a law criminalizing rape by males only but not females. Previously, there was a law in the US where only males can be charged for rape and not females. So